Turkey sends its tanks into Syria to tackle Kurdish militia being trained by the USA. Pentagon says it was warned of the move by Ankara, which had this message for Washington.
America, do not encroach on our borders. Do not provoke us, or we will run out of patience.
Also to come, be careful what you say. Declassified documents claim the NSA is now using voice recognition software to spy on people. And Germany's political deadlock could be broken after the Social Democrats agreed to start formal coalition talks with Angela Merkel's party, although it may leave the anti-migrant AfD party as the main opposition in Parliament. Hello there, welcome. It's just gone midday here in Moscow. You're watching RT International. Now, our top story this hour, Turkey's military operation against Kurdish forces is entering its third day, with Ankara's tanks now moving into Syrian territory. It comes after the US announced it's training Kurdish militia to establish a new border force in the region. Well, America has acknowledged that two of its allies in the Middle East are in conflict, and the US Defense Secretary said that Washington had been consulted about Turkish operations. With more now, here's Ilya Petrenko.
Unbelievable. Is this real? A NATO member telling Daddy, you know who I mean?
Amerika'nın
Behave yourself, or I'll point a gun at you. Am I exaggerating? A bit. Mr. Erdogan didn't say these exact words, but Turkey's got a prime minister who pretty much did.
Anyone who gives logistical support to the YPG is Turkey's target.
For the record, the YPG equals the Kurdish army, and for all these years, who's been giving the Kurds all kinds of support? Right.
Ey Amerika.
Over the weekend, the Kurds were extended an olive branch. That's what Ankara calls its military op. The Kurds say they repelled an attack on Sunday, but where does the YPG get its guns?
Amerika.
Tayyip Erdogan couldn't care less why Washington's been helping the Kurds. To destroy ISIL, for this man, the Kurdish militias are no better than terrorists. That explains his latest messages to America.
The U.S. is in the process of creating a terror army on our border. What we have to do is nip this terror army in the bud. America, do not encroach on our borders, do not provoke us, or we will run out of patience.
Does anyone from the U.S. government have anything to say?
We urge Turkey to exercise restraint and ensure that its military operations remain limited in scope and duration and scrupulous to avoid civilian casualties.
Some very restrained counsel there. To be restrained. Think about it. Mr. Erdogan rants at America. U.S. officials don't hit back. Turkey rolls out the tanks, flies out the warplanes, sends soldiers over the border. Washington basically keeps stum. After all, this isn't about Kim, whose slightest squeak makes Donald Trump, for one, roar. So perhaps the Turks and the Kurds have succeeded in one thing together: reducing America to baffled silence.
Ilya Petrenko there. Well, we spoke with a former Turkish ambassador to the US who believes that America should be held responsible for the military standoff in northern Syria.
The US is responsible, is the reason why Turkey felt compelled to intervene and to start this operation in the first place, because the U.S., even though they backtracked after the initial announcement, they said they want to establish an army, a force, a parallel force. In all countries of the world, there is only one flag and one army. Ankara was determined, even before such an announcement, that the YPG should not be armed, but our allies, particularly the U.S., did not listen and continued their support with heavy weapons, with 4,000 truckloads of weaponry to YPG. Against whom? Against the Syrian regime? against Turkey.
Meanwhile, rallies against the military operation have been held in Europe. In Turkey, demonstrators were met by a heavy police presence, with reports that the authorities used force to disperse the crowds. At least 12 people have been detained there, and scuffles also broke out between police and protesters.